so I'll be able to go over them until Monday after spring break, but grades are on there. The usual quiz will go live tonight, so don't forget and get that done before 5 o'clock on Friday. So again, spring break the following week. Cover what we talk about tonight with Monopoly. Here in Enid, tomorrow night we have the Roustabout concert at 7 o'clock over in the Briggs Auditorium. So those you're not familiar, that's the performing group from the Tahlequah campus. They've been around about 50 years, traveled the world. Actually, they were one of the first groups allowed to perform in Russia back in the communist days. So they went over there in the 80s and toured the Soviet Union. So that was a very big honor. So anyway, they're fun to see. They'll be again over here in Briggs at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Free concert. Let's see. About the other news, just to let you all know here, because you'll hear about it by the other sources, is I announced today at our board meeting that I'm going to be retiring from Northern effective this coming June. So, and what that means really is that I won't be the VP anymore for the Enid campus. What I'm going to do is transition then to just being a adjunct faculty and teach this class still here in Enid. And then they also want me to teach classes in Stillwater. So I'll be doing a little bit of commuting back and forth between here and Stillwater for the next, however long I want to do it. And thinking, well, gee, Dr. Bender, you're only 29 years old. How could you possibly retire? But no, yeah, this is, as I said, this is my 34th year teaching college. I started at OSU back in 1985, 1986. So I've been in higher ed a long time. And I've done the administration work now for 23 years. And that's long enough. I'm ready to get back more in the classroom. My mother's 90 years old, so it's be good to spend more time with her while she's still around. So it's just a good time for all that. So long story short, it doesn't have anything to do with this class. I'm still going to be here throughout the semester, and I said June 30th, and then I'll still be around. I'll just be adjunct faculty. I'll have an office over here in the Marshall building on our campus here in Enid, and just do a lot of traveling. So excited to do that. Should be an interesting transition. It's kind of full circle. I started as adjunct, and now I'm going to end up, after all those years, back to adjunct. So, and that's the moral of what I told you the first day of class. You never know what you're going to wind up doing. So I never thought I'd be a faculty member, never thought I'd be a division chair, I never thought I'd be a dean, never thought I'd be a vice president. And so you just have to kind of keep your options open and enjoy the classes as you take them, because you don't know what that opportunity may lead you to. So anyway, that's the story for me. Tonight what we're going to do is I've got a bunch of stuff that's come out recently on the economy that I think is interesting to share with you before we get into the next chapter here on Monopoly. This is Wall Street Journal. You know, the Dow kind of dipped a little bit because jobs hiring kind of dropped a little bit last month, and that kind of spooked the stock market a little bit. Now today I saw it was back up, and if you really kind of watch the stock market carefully the last 2 or 3 days, it's amazing how much impact Boeing has had on the stock market, especially the Dow Jones, because the Dow Jones only consists of 50 stocks, and Boeing is one of those. And their stock took a big nosedive because of this 737 MAX plane crisis. And so the Dow goes down, but the S&P has gone up because it's 500 stocks. And so Boeing doesn't have much of an impact. As far as where the jobs are right now, hospitality had growth in January, zero growth in February. Construction had growth in January, negative in February. So you can see the blue is January, the red is February. I'm not sure why education went down in February. Transportation, so not a lot of job growth in most areas. Unemployment rate, you can see back in the recession spiked at 10%, and now it's down to 3.8, but it's hard to see if there's a little uptick here, so it kind of jumped up just a smidge. Wage growth, here's the inflation rate, the black line. The blue line is how much wages are increasing. So you can see that wages have been going up nicely. Prices are going down a little bit, so that means your income is going higher. And as far as people in the workforce, age 25 to 54, So in the labor force, more people are involved in the labor force and more people are working. So those are good things. Here in Oklahoma, our unemployment rate actually increased. So this came out March 11th. So it jumped up by 0.1%, which isn't a big jump. Right now there are 58,900 unemployed people in Oklahoma out of a labor force of 1.8 million. Let's see, as far as bad places to be, non-farm fell 4,400. Let's see, trade added jobs, construction added, trade, transportation, so education minus 1,000. Interesting. Let's see, also in the news, of course, are taxes and whatnot. Well, this is kind of interesting. Cumulative growth in income after transfers and taxes. So, in other words, after people get entitlement programs, student loans, et cetera, and so on, how is they have done income-wise? The top 1%, you can see their income has increased by 242% since 1979. So zeros here. And then you can see the others, 81st and 99th percentile, 79%. And finally, the lowest, 20%, has increased by, it's like 79%. So when people say the rich are getting richer, yeah, they are. But the poor are also getting richer. They're just not getting rich as fast as the rich are. So the rich went up 242%, the poor went up 79%. So did the gap get bigger? Yes. But did the poor get poorer? No. So you got to make sure and look at data when you see this. The poor are not getting poorer. They're getting richer, but just not as fast as the rich are. So that's what the data shows. As far as who's paying taxes, well, this is interesting. The top 1%, the tax rate on them is 33%. The bottom 20% pay 1.5%. So when the question is who's paying taxes, it's not the bottom 20%. They're not paying much tax. It's this group here. The top 1% is paying 33% taxes. The top 20% is paying 24% taxes. And then the middle three, from 21 to 80%, are paying 14.9. So these two brackets definitely pay the highest chunk of taxes. In Oklahoma, good news. Tax receipts up for the 23rd consecutive month. February receipts, $971 million is what the state took in. That's 10.7% higher than February of last year. So that's good. Where'd the money come from? Crude oil and natural gas up 58% as far as tax revenue from oil and natural gas. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we talked about cigarette taxes. Here we go. Dollar per pack hike in cigarette taxes added 10.5 million in February. So wow, multiply that by 12. And so $120 million roughly is what they're going to take in cigarette. So that's 120 million packs of cigarettes. That's a lot of cigarettes. Let's see, individuals taxes, sales taxes up, oil up, motor vehicle up 7.5%. So again, that means the state's going to have more money to spend. Let's see, other one here. The United States will surpass Saudi Arabia later this year in exports of oil, natural gas liquids, and petroleum products. So we've gone from being a net importer of gasoline to now we're a net exporter of gasoline. So again, I never thought that would happen in my lifetime. We'll be the world's leading exporter. This has never happened since Saudi Arabia began selling oil in the 1950s. So 10 years ago, no one thought it happened. And of course, why we talked about that, technology, fracking, shale oil production, U.S. oil production has doubled in the past decade. The United States now pumps more oil than any other country, including Russia and Saudi Arabia. So U.S. production is off the chart. We're now exporting oil for the first time in 40 years. So, again, just amazing that happened. Let's see, another one here we talked about this, rent control. And in case you think that this is an issue that we know better, last week Oregon became the first state to adopt a mandatory statewide rent control policy. Yet, as we know, rent control never delivers on the promise. So the new policy applies to landlords, blah, blah, blah. The change comes after rent increased by 14% over the last 3 years during a population boom. Well, supply and demand, right? More people move in the state, creates more demand, prices go up. Now, of course, what we talked about is once prices go up, then what do builders start to do? Build more housing, right? But it takes a while. So they've seen the price go up, but the reaction isn't, oh, we need to build more houses. It's, oh, we need to put price controls. So that's, again, a big mistake. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. Let's go through here. Let's see, here's what we talked about. Rent control helps affordability in the short run for current tenants, but in the long run decreases affordability, fuels gentrification, and creates negative externalities on the surrounding neighborhood, like we talked about. You stop maintaining the property. The reason is simple and boils down to the law of supply and demand. First, they may withdraw their properties. So anyway, so you can read the whole article, but it talks about just all the things we went through. And lastly, minimum wage. Talked about this. This is in this week's CNN or one of that's website. New York fast food recommended they raise the wage to $15 an hour for restaurants in New York City. Here's what happened. According to the New York Hospitality Alliance, the city has experienced the biggest drop in restaurant jobs in 2 decades. Well, you made it expensive for firms to hire people, so guess what they did? Don't hire people. So that's what's happened. The study revealed 76% of full-service restaurants have reduced employee hours and 36% eliminated jobs in 2018. 75% report they will reduce more hours and 53% will eliminate jobs in 2019 as a result of mandated wage increases. Annual employment growth dropped from 6% to less than 1%. So that's, again, negative. So the end result is 3,000 fewer serving jobs. And if you remember, we did this in class. I'll bring this back to what we talked about. We talked about, here we are, supply and demand. And you put in a minimum wage law here. So here's the number of jobs you used to have, say 10,000. But now, here's how many people firms are going to hire at the higher wage, 7,000. So you just lost 3,000 jobs. So that's what they're saying is you put in this higher wage, and so it's reduced the number of jobs from this amount back up to this amount. So, and you've now created this permanent unemployment because people can't get jobs. So just what we talked about in chapter 3 and 4. All right, so enough depression there.
Is that only in fast food restaurants?
Yeah, it's the New York Fast Food Wage Board. For some reason, New York City actually has an agency that sets wages just in fast food. So, yeah, it's kind of a strange beast. Okay, Monopoly. All right, last time we looked at perfect competition, which again was based on a set of assumptions about the industry. And we said it's kind of a very limited, it's the ideal world, lots of companies, no one has any power, they take the market price, blah, blah, blah. And for a while, this was the only model they had. And then Alfred Marshall, the same guy that did Perfect Competition, came up with this one and said, so now we have the exact opposite. We've got one model which has tons of small firms, and now we have one model with one firm. So coming from one extreme to the other. Now, as I said, when we started in on Monopoly, I got these all structured the same, so you can go back and compare very easily to the characteristics of Monopoly, and then flip back your notes, compare it to PC. So I tried to keep the Roman numerals the same. throughout these, so you can go back and see how they're different. Now, we all know what a monopoly is because you play the game, and the idea is to crush everyone else and take all their money and have them cry. So that's I think you have a good idea of what monopoly is. You only have one seller, so that's monopoly. Mono means one. And unlike PC, where the firms were price takers, the monopoly is a price searcher or a price giver. I mean, they set the price. So you've got one firm, they're a price searcher or a price giver. So they set the price. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking that monopolies are all big. All monopoly means is you have one firm in the market. So if you are a pizza restaurant in Garber, you're probably a monopoly. You know, there's probably not any other pizza restaurants in Garber or in Billings or somewhere like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're huge. It just means you're the only company in that market. Second, unlike PC firms, which make a homogeneous good, in other words, something identical, the monopoly makes a unique product. So this means there are no close substitutes. So that's what unique means. No close substitutes. And then third, unlike PC, which had easy entry and easy exit, monopolies have barriers to entry. So it's hard for new firms to come in. So that's what barriers mean. It's difficult for new firms to enter this industry. So you got one firm, has a unique product, and it can keep other firms out. So that's your three monopoly characteristics. Now, there are various ways you can get a monopoly. So let's kind of look at how you might do that. So types of monopolies. We have all of them around our area. One of them you have right now in your home that you do business with every day. A natural monopoly. A natural monopoly. Definition: a firm that experiences increasing economies of scale over a wide range of output. So a firm that experiences increasing economies of scale over a wide range of output. Now, remember back in the chapter on production and cost, we talked about economies of scale. It's 5 things that lower your costs as you get bigger. We talked about volume discounts, using equipment more efficiently, specialization, selling your waste. So all of these things lower your per unit cost as you get bigger. But eventually they run out. And so if you recall, we kind of drew the long run average cost curve as going down, hitting a flat point, and then going up. So you had economies of scale, constant returns of scale, and then decreasing diseconomies of scale. So that's the typical. All right. If you're a natural monopoly, though, here's the way your industry looks. Average total cost, 0. Output. So it looks something like this. As you get bigger and bigger, your cost per unit keep going down, 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 so it doesn't bottom out as quickly. So instead of doing something, you know, like going down a little bit and then going flat and then going up, it goes down for a long time. Example of this that you have right now is electricity. So this would be a good example of electric power. And the reason why is these industries tend to have enormous fixed costs. For example, how much does it cost to build a power plant like OG&E has, outside of Ponca City and Stillwater and places like that? Billions of dollars. How much does it actually cost them to produce one more kilowatt of power? Marginal cost is zip. I mean, throw in some more coal and you can produce another unit of power. The cost is the fixed cost, building the darn plant. And what we say about fixed costs, or average fixed costs, the more you produce, the lower it goes. And so, let me show you. If you have one factory, one power plant, let's say here. Let's say this is 1 million kilowatts. One plant producing 1 million kilowatts. That plant can produce power at a nickel a kilowatt. So that's a nickel. So that one plant can produce 1 million kilowatts at a nickel a kilowatt. Well, this isn't fair. We need competition. We should build 4 small plants instead of one big one. That way we have competition. Let's see why that's a bad idea. That's 1 million. So this would be about 500,000. And here would be 250,000. So let's build 4 plants this size. So 250,000 kilowatt. Okay, here's why that's a bad idea. If that's a nickel, so a nickel, 10, 15, 20. Okay, so now it's going to cost you 20 cents a kilowatt because you built 4 small plants instead of 1 big plant. So that's what you call a natural monopoly. It's just more efficient for one company to build one big plant than it is to have lots of small companies. And the same thing is true for like natural gas. Can you imagine like in Ponca City or Enid having 14 different gas companies laying pipelines throughout the city? Wouldn't that be a nightmare trying to fix streets or something like that? Or water, have 12 different water lines running to each house because companies want to do that. Or, you can see all kinds of circumstances where probably it makes more sense to have one giant plant. So anyway, that's a natural monopoly. So most public utilities tend to be natural monopolies. Second, you can be a legal monopoly. And some of these you can be more than one type. So you can be a natural and a legal. So these aren't mutually exclusive. You could be both. Also called a public franchise. This is when the government grants. So the government grants a private firm the exclusive right to sell in a market. So the government grants a private firm the exclusive right to sell in a market. So the government says, you're a monopoly. So you're the only company that we're going to allow to sell in Enid or in Ponca City or wherever. Example here in Enid is cable. Suddenlink is the only cable company in Enid. They have a franchise with the city of Enid. Ponca City, what do you have? Cable One, is that your company there? Or what? What's your?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Well, AT&T and Cable One.
Okay, so you've got franchise arrangements with AT&T and Cable One in there. It also can be power plants. Some towns in Oklahoma have agreements with OG&E where OG&E sells the city power, and the city sells it to the customers. Tahquah is that way, actually. So again, it's just the government says you're a monopoly and you're the only one that can sell in this town. So that's another way to do it. Third, you can actually be owned and operated by the government. So this is a government-owned and operated monopoly. The post office is a government monopoly. Usually the trash collection is done by the government. Water is the government. Police, government, So those are examples of government monopolies. Fourth, this one's kind of hard to get. So 4 is probably the rarest of them all. A strategic resource monopoly. This happens when one firm has control over some vital input. So a firm has somehow gotten control over some vital input for the industry. So the industry requires unobtainium, and your company has all of the unobtainium bought up. So no one else can make the product because you have the only raw material, something like that. Obviously, this is hard to do. Now, later on we'll talk about this, but at one point, Alcoa, which is Aluminum Company of America, so they're still around today, under contract back in the 1930s and 40s, they had 95% of the world's supply of bauxite under contract. And bauxite is what you use to make aluminum. And so if you want to make aluminum, you basically had to buy your raw material from your competitor. You know, you had to buy it from Alcoa. Now, to Alcoa's credit, they were fine with that. They sold bauxite to everyone, didn't charge, you know, high prices for it. You know, they wanted to make money too, so they were fine with that. But eventually, the government thought that was a bad idea, and so they broke Alcoa up. And so all the aluminum companies today, like Reynolds Aluminum and Kaiser Aluminum and all those, were once part of Alcoa. But the government split them up because they thought they had too much monopoly power. But they were a strategic resource monopoly there for a few years. They had that all signed up. Another example is whenever you open medication or pill bottles, you'll notice inside is a little pouch that contains a desiccant, you know, something to absorb moisture. Now, when I was a kid, all those were little round cylinders, and inside the cylinders was desiccated clay. So that's what they used, was a type of clay that absorbed moisture. That clay came from one mine. I think it was in Arizona. So that's where you had to buy your desiccated clay from. They were a monopoly. Unfortunately, they charged a really high price for that, and so it encouraged firms to invent an alternative. So now you don't see desiccated clay hardly in anything. Now it's those little silicon balls or something that also absorb moisture. So, but that was a strategic resource monopoly for a while.
Was Southern Bell a monopoly of Southwestern?
Yeah, they'd probably be like, again, when I was a kid, Southwestern Bell was probably here in Oklahoma, was the only local phone company you could have. Of course, AT&T had the only long distance mostly, so they were probably government monopolies largely to extent.
They got shut down and split up.
Yeah, in 1982, actually 74 was the original case that didn't get settled to 82, and we'll talk about that, the AT&T case. The last way you can become a monopoly is by having a patent. So, you know, a patent grants you the exclusive right to that invention or that idea. So you fill out the paperwork, you go to the government, and you get a patent on whatever it is you're doing. And so that gives you like 17 years or 25 years or whatever, and you've got the exclusive ability to say it. Now, this is also why when people say we should make monopolies illegal, that, you know, this is a bad thing, you can't. Because in the U.S. Constitution, it creates the U.S. Patent Office, and the U.S. Patent Office, by definition, creates monopolies. And so unless you want to, you know, destroy the U.S. Constitution, you can't say monopolies are illegal, because it's right there in the Constitution that you have the right to get a patent, and a patent is a monopoly. And it's funny to go back and read some of the old patents and what they used to say. Like in 1907, the guy that ran the U.S. Patent Office recommended the office be closed because everything that could be invented had already been invented, you know, like 1907, so yeah. Of course, I remember Bill Gates saying that no computer would ever need more than 650K of memory. You know, what would you ever do with 650K of RAM? And so now, of course, we have, you know, gigabytes of RAM and stuff. Okay, so how do these firms then set output and prices? So price and output determination. Now remember, in the PC firm, we talked about how demand for a PC firm was different than the demand for the industry. So we had to draw the two graphs to find out what the price was, blah, blah, blah. All right, so immediately we have a difference here. So A. So again, comparing this back to the last chapter, the PC firm had that perfectly elastic or horizontal curve because they could only sell at the one price, you know, the market price, $5. They could sell all they wanted at that price, but they could only sell at $5. They couldn't sell at 6, couldn't sell at 4, and that price was set by the market. So a PC firm faced a horizontal demand curve because it was too small to affect the market price. They were price takers. All right. But the monopolist, though, is the monopolist small compared to the market? No, the monopolist is the market. There's only one firm. So, B. A monopolist is a price giver because it is the industry. So you don't have two graphs anymore. You only have one. You don't have industry graph and the firm graph. You have just the industry because that's all you have. It's one firm. So it is the industry. So there's no more two graphs. There's only one. So Mono is a price giver because it is the industry. And so it faces the market demand curve. So the demand curve for electricity. That's what OG&E faces. The demand curve for pizza and Garber, whatever it is. So you're the only one there. So there are not two demand curves, market and firm. There's only market. So just one. So that makes it a little bit easier. Okay, next one, or C. Okay, remember this from chapter 3. The law of demand works for the market. So more is bought in a market at a lower price than a high one. So people buy more electricity when electricity is cheap. They buy more water when water is cheap. That's true in the market. Again, this didn't work in the PC firm because they had no power. But the monopolist is facing the market, not a sliver of it. It's facing the entire thing. So what does this mean then? What's the difference between this and PC? Okay, here we are. The monopolist faces a typical downward sloping demand curve. The industry one. So the two graphs we drew last time, side by side, we don't do the one on the right anymore. So that firm one's gone. We're just drawing that industry demand curve, the normal downward sloping curve. Higher prices, people buy less. Lower prices, people buy more. Okay, so why is that such a big deal? So why is the shape so important? Downward sloping, horizontal. Because it brings up another difference between this model and perfect competition. If you remember, under perfect competition, we had all the numbers the same thing, $5, price was $5, average revenue was $5, marginal revenue was $5, demand was $5, so it's all the same thing. Okay, and I also said that's only true in that model. That's not true anywhere else. Here's why. If you have that horizontal demand curve, like PC firms did, price and marginal revenue, the same number. If you sold one more bushel of wheat, what'd you get? $5. Sell another one, what do you get? $5. Sell 10 more, what do you get? $5 each. It's always the same number. But for the monopolist, that's not the case, because the monopolist faces the industry demand, and the industry demand slopes down. So if they want to sell more, they've got to lower the price. So that is a big difference. Therefore, the price is going to be greater than the marginal revenue. Now think what that's saying. The price they charge is greater than the extra revenue they get from selling one more unit. Okay, let's do an example. So let's do some numbers. So, same thing we did with perfect competition, price, quantity, total revenue, marginal revenue, average revenue. We'll just do, say, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Price, 10, 9, 8, 7. Now, immediately you can tell this is different than PC, because if this was a PC firm, this would be 10, 10, 10, 10. You know, it'd all be the same thing because, again, the PC firm had no control of the price, and they could sell all they wanted at the price. But this, again, is monopolist. This is the industry demand. So in order for them to sell more, if they want to sell 4 units, they got to charge $9. If they want to sell 5 units, they have to charge $8. So they're following that industry demand. So just multiply this out. 10 times 3, total revenue will be 30. 9 times 4, 36. 8 times 5, 40. 7 times 6, 42. Let's see, marginal revenue, we don't know what that was prior. Okay, when we go from $10 to $9, we sell 1 more unit, so our marginal revenue is $6, between 30 and 36. We sell 1 more unit. What's our marginal revenue between here and here? $4. We sell another unit from 5 to 6. What's our change in revenue? $2. You'll notice price is 9, marginal revenue is 6. Price is 8, marginal revenue is 4. Price is 7, marginal revenue is 2. Price is always greater than marginal revenue. And average revenue, let's see, 30 divided by 3 is 10, 36 divided by 4, 9, 40 divided by 5, 8, and 42 divided by 6, 7. So you can see these are actually the same. Price and average revenue are the same. But price and marginal revenue are not. Okay, let's explain why. So why is this always going to be the case? Here's why. So explanation there. So A, the monopolist can increase sales by lowering price. Again, the PC firm couldn't do that. Farmer Joe could not increase the sale of his wheat by lowering price. You know, he's just taking the co-op price. But the wheat market, that's a different animal. So the wheat market demand goes up if the price falls. So the monopoly can increase sales by lowering price. B, here is an important point. If you're going to sell more units, and again, you can picture Walmart on this. When you go to Walmart and Walmart has toilet paper on sale, do they sell the first roll of toilet paper at $3, the second roll at $2.90, the third roll at $3.80, the fourth roll at $2.50, or do they price them all at $2.50? All of them at $2.50. So that's the same logic here. They're not selling 1 unit at $10, 1 unit at $9, 1 unit. They're selling all of them at whatever the price is. So at $7, they're selling 6 units. So if they want to sell 6 units, they have to lower the price on all of them to $7. Not just the 6th unit. So it must lower the price on all units it sells, not just the extra unit. So marginal revenue will be less than the price. So if you want to sell 1 more unit, you're not just lowering the price on that extra unit. You're lowering the price on all the units. So that's what creates the numbers in the example. Okay, another thing that's going to be different, the marginal revenue curve is always below the demand curve, not the same line. So under PC, it was all the same thing, $5, $5, $5. And so you had one curve or one straight line that was everything. So price, marginal revenue, average revenue, demand, all the same line. Now that's not the case. And we'll do an example here in just a moment. Fact. The profit maximizing output is still the same thing. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost. You look for that, and that is where you want to be. So here is the basic monopoly graph that you can use to build everything else we do with monopoly. If you were to plot these numbers, you would wind up with something that looks like this. Demand sloping down as usual. Marginal revenue cuts this right in half. So bisects it, as it's called. Like that. Now we add in marginal cost, which we've talked about before. It looks the same as it always does, kind of a J shape. Okay. Now we have to identify marginal cost equals marginal revenue, and we have just found the profit maximizing price and output. So here's marginal cost, here's marginal revenue. They're equal right here. So drop straight down. That's our quantity right there. How much can they charge for that much? We go up to the demand curve to see what they're willing to pay for that amount of stuff. And there we have the profit maximizing price and the profit maximizing quantity. So they'll produce this much and charge this price. Now you're probably wondering, well, what's this here? Well, this, if we wanted to know something else, this is marginal cost and marginal revenue. That's where they cross. So this is MC and MR. So that's what that tells us right there. That's the price, that's the quantity. All right, now you notice on the PC firm, if you remember, we talked about this area here being supply curve. You know, everything from above, actually above average variable cost, and we kind of shaded that in. Now, that's another difference here. So graph note there at the bottom. Okay, another key difference between the two models. Monopolies don't have supply curves. They get to pick their own price. So nothing tells them you need to produce this much. They just use the graph we just did and say, this is where we make the most money. Boom, we're picking that price. So they don't have a supply curve. They choose whichever price maximizes their profit. Okay, let's do some examples of all this. And the way we're going to do that is by addressing some monopoly myths. So myths about monopolies. And we'll draw all these out so you can kind of see them and compare them. So monopoly myths. Now, people get riled up about monopolies, especially nowadays with drug companies. So if you're a drug company and you've got a monopoly on some new drug and it's very expensive, you can almost guarantee you're gonna have politicians saying about how bad it is that you're a monopoly and how much you're charging for drugs. Well, here's kind of why they do it. So monopolies gouge people by charging the highest price they can. That's myth number one. So I'm a monopoly. My sole purpose of business is to charge you as much as I possibly can because I don't like my customers. Now, it really doesn't seem like a very good business model. I hate my customers. Give me money. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so drawing our, this is good practice by the way, and just drawing this, the model. Band, marginal revenue, marginal cost. Okay. Now, according to what they're saying, if this to be true, what is the highest price that someone is willing to pay for this product? How would you find that on this graph? If they wanted to gouge you, where would they charge? Right there. Because the highest price someone's willing to pay is how much you sell for one unit. You know, someone's willing to pay that much money for one unit. Well, that's not the way companies work. You look at General Motors with Corvettes. You know, if they made one Corvette a year, yeah, they could probably sell it for, you know, $500,000. But they would rather sell 50,000 of them at $80,000. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So the goal is not to charge the highest price you can. The goal is to charge that price that does what? Maximizes your profit. So that is not. So here's what they're going to do. They're going to produce that much, and they're going to charge this much. So they're not going to charge the absolute highest price. So under this, put down false. So this is false. And then out to the side, just say the mono charges the highest price that maximizes profit, not the absolute highest price possible. So the monopolist charges the highest price that maximizes profit, not the absolute highest price. I know it sounds like a subtle difference, but again, you can see the difference between that highest possible price versus what they actually charge. So that's not their goal to simply say, oh, we're the most expensive. No, you want to make money. So that's false. Secondly, second myth. Monopolies always earn big bucks. So economic profit. Remember we said that's the best. If you have economic profit, you are doing great. That's better than normal profit. So you're making the big bucks. So because you're a monopoly, you always earn economic profit. Okay, well, let's say I get a patent on an item. Does that mean that somebody will actually buy it? No. The patent office is full of stuff that nobody ever gets to market. And it's also full of things that people make that fail miserably. So just because you're a monopoly doesn't mean you don't make bad decisions, that you don't make something, well, look like Boeing. You know, you make an airliner that's got a safety issue. And so, yeah, you might be a monopoly, but if you make something that kills people, then you're going to lose money. You know, so having a monopoly doesn't guarantee you high profit. Now, does it give you a good chance? Sure. I mean, if I invent a drug that cures cancer, I guarantee you I have to be a real idiot not to make money on that thing. But is it possible to lose money? Sure. So here's the possibilities. So let me just kind of show you what the graphs look like. Here's what it looks like if you do actually make economic profit. So here's the way that looks. if you're a monopoly and you are actually making economic profit. Okay, so let's draw our usual graphs here. So price, quantity, okay, so demand, marginal revenue, marginal cost. All right, this time we're going to add in our average total cost curve. Now remember, let me draw mine first. How it looks. It's U-shaped, and this marginal cost must pass through it at its low point. So that's the same curve we drew the last two chapters. So again, just crosses at the low point. So let's see what we got. Here is our point we're looking for. Drop straight down. There's our quantity. Straight up to find our price. Right here. And right here, this is our average total cost. So we go up to where it touches that curve, go across to get our cost. Average total cost. So, here's how much we're charging for it. Here's how much it cost us. So this is economic profit. So this rectangle here is all profit. So this is possible. So if your company is successful, you've got a monopoly, you've got a patent, you've got barriers to entry, so yes, you can do this. So if your curves look like this, then this square here is all of the economic profit. It's greater than average total cost. So we are okay. So that's fine. Okay, second possibility. Normal profit. So normal profit. Same start. Okay. All right. The only difference in the graphs is where we draw average total cost. This time you're going to draw average total cost higher. And it's going to just touch right here. So let's see if we can, actually let's cheat a little bit. Let's make this easier. So let's figure out our quantity and price first. That'll make it go faster. So QX up right there. Right. So we're going to draw the average total cost curve so it just touches right at that point there. The price, so like this. So it goes around, just touches there. Hopefully you can draw better curves than I can. And up. So it's just touching right there. Where the big mess of ink is. Now, what does this mean? Here's the quantity, here's the price, and not only is this the price, but what else is this right at that point? It's not only price, it's also average total cost. So how much profit are we making? None. So price and average total cost are the same thing. So just like under PC, we're making normal profit. We charged $15 a unit. Our cost was $15 a unit. So we're now making just normal profit. So again, if the curve had been lower, we'd be making money. But since it's higher and just touching that line, we're now just making normal profit. So all that profit rectangle is gone. We move this line up, so there's no more profit. So that's possible. You can make normal profit. And then third, lose money. Okay, same basic graph, demand, marginal revenue, marginal cost. This time, just draw average total cost way up here somewhere. So just really high. Again, crosses low point, back up. So really high cost this time compared to our demand. So here is our quantity right here, QX. Here's our price, PX. And then way up here is our cost per unit. So this is obviously bad. Average total cost. So that is not good. So in this case, your cost per unit is higher than your price, so you are now officially losing money. So this area here would be your loss. Average total cost greater than price. That is bad. So these are your three possibilities. You can make money as a monopoly, sure. You can make normal profit, sure, or you can lose money. It just depends on how successful you are, in your business. So that's your possibilities. So normal, and then make money. Now, for example, in this case here, like this one, this could change. What happens if your demand curves shift to the right? You would go from just making normal profit to now you're making economic profit. Or if they shifted down, you would then start losing money. So remember, these curves can all move around based on what happens to the market, what happens to your costs, so this curve can move up, move down. So it can change on a company very quickly. But that's what the three possibilities look like. All right, let's summarize then what we've talked about so far. Just some of the differences in the two models. So summary. If you again go back and compare the chapters, the notes we did, under perfect competition, price and marginal cost were the same number. Because price and marginal revenue were the same number. And marginal revenue equal marginal cost. So if you look at the graphs we've just drawn, though, that's not the case. In every graph we did, the price is greater than marginal cost. So just look at the three graphs. Every graph we do, the price the monopolist charges is higher than marginal cost. So for example, here's the price, here's marginal cost. Here's the price, here's marginal cost. Here's the price, here's the price, here's marginal cost. So the price is always greater than marginal cost, never equal. Second, under perfect competition, price and marginal revenue were the same thing. Again, we beat that to death because you were stuck charging at the market price, $5, $5, $5, $5, so the firm had no power. But as we saw with the table we did for monopoly, the price is greater than marginal revenue. So $9 and the marginal was $6. The price was $8 and marginal was $4. So they're not the same. Always greater. Third, under perfect competition, we said that PC firms tend to earn normal profits or zero economic profits in the long run because you can't keep firms out. We gave the example, if wheat farmers start making tons of money, then the corn growers, the soybean growers, everyone else starts growing wheat. And that then depresses the price. But is this the case for a monopoly? If I've got a 25-year patent on something, can other firms come in and make it? Nope. So I can actually make money, possibly. So under monopoly, economic profits are possible. Again, not guaranteed. There's no guarantee against human stupidity. So under monopoly, economic profits are possible because you can keep people out. I mean, the government gave me a 25-year franchise, to do whatever it is I'm doing, cable TV, or OG&E, whatever, or, cancer treatment or whatever. So you think I could make a go of that? So are possible. Okay, so what is really bad about monopolies then? So they don't actually gouge you per se by charging the highest price they can. So what is it that gets people riled about monopolies legitimately? So not the myths. Okay, well, there are 4 criticisms of monopoly that we can make. So these are legitimate economic costs of having monopolies around. First, the price. The fact is this. Monopolies charge more and produce less than a PC firm does. So that's the reality. So monopoly price, just put down, monopolies charge more, produce less than a PC firm would. So that is a legitimate criticism. And your book goes through and shows a dozen graphs showing how that's possible with a flat marginal cost curve and so on. But just take, you don't want to read through all that, and then just reality is they do charge more and produce less. Second thing, they aren't very efficient. So it's called technical or allocative inefficiency. Some books call this X inefficiency. So if you see that somewhere, same thing. So technical, allocative, or X inefficiency. Okay, what it means is this. Okay. If you look back at our graphs here, actually I'm going to show, pull out one of the monopoly ones, or PC ones real quick. Remember we did this one, PC firm with the 5 lines. We said this is where the PC firm produces in the long run. Right here, at average total cost, they make normal profits, blah, blah, blah. But we also said that by producing here, you'll notice they're producing at the low point of average total cost. So right here, they're producing at the lowest cost. That was the good thing about PC firms, is they produced at the lowest cost. However, look at monopoly. Is this production at the low point? No. Is this production at the low point? Nope. Is this one at the low point? Nope. So in no case do we see the monopolist producing at that low point. Why? Because they don't care about minimizing costs. They're concerned about maximizing profit. And that is where they do that. So under this one, just say this. Using MC equals MR. So using MC equals MR. Monos underuse their plant. And do not minimize average total costs. So using the MC equals MR, monopolies underuse their plant and don't produce where their average total cost is minimized. They don't care. So that's a legitimate criticism. Third, this one's kind of shady a little bit as far as the real problem. Equity problems. So we're talking here about income equality, income distribution. That's what we mean by equity. Here's what people say. So this is the criticism, and I'll kind of tell you whether I think it's worthwhile. The idea being this. Let's say you got OG&E. So you have electricity monopoly. They're going to charge a higher price and produce less than a PC firm would. So fine. Therefore, everyone pays the higher price. So all the customers, rich and poor, pay the higher price for electricity. Who benefits because the monopolist charges a higher price and therefore makes extra profits? So what group is going to be benefiting from the company making that extra money? Well, think of who is it that's involved in a company. You've got the employees, you've got the managers, you've got the stockholders. So the theory is this: everyone suffers by paying the higher price. But that money then flows to a few groups. It flows to the stockholders because I get paid big dividends, thanks to the company making money. It goes to the employees because they get big paychecks. It goes to the bosses, they get nice big bonuses. And so the idea being that equity is harmed by that, by taking money from the masses and giving it to the few. So that's the logic. Now, the only reason I think that kind of falls apart today is maybe back 30, 40 years ago, that might have been the case because not that many people were involved in the stock market. But nowadays, how hard is it to open up a stock market account? Go online, right? Scottrade, E-Trade, $5 a trade. And pretty much everyone in this, all of you, probably have retirement plans of some kind, or you will. And what do you think they do with your money? Invest it in companies, and companies that make profits, and those companies tend to be monopolies. So, yeah, I think this is probably a small problem, but I think since so many retirement plans include OG&E, ONG, Microsoft, Intel, Google, Facebook, that money is flowing back in somewhat. So I haven't taken this off the list because I'm sure there probably are areas where this is a problem, but I think it was a short way to say that. Okay, we'll just say this. Equity problems, we'll say there may be, so M-A-Y, so we'll kind of just say may. There may be an issue with income transfer from monopoly customers to mono stockholders and employees. So we'll just leave it at that. So there may be a problem with income transfer from the customers to the stockholders, employees of the monopoly. So maybe. And then lastly, the fourth thing we can kick monopolies on is they don't tend to be very innovative. Now, this is a general statement. There are monopolies out there that are very innovative, so this is just in general. And this is actually one they share with PC. Remember PC, we said PC firms don't spend much on research. Farmer Joe doesn't spend much on new crops and stuff like that. Monopolies don't tend to spend a lot either, because the one thing that drives companies to spend money on new products is competition. Whereas what do monopolies not have? Competition. So why do I want to take $100 million of my profit and design a new product when you have to buy the current one? So, yeah, that's a mindset. Now, again, some monopolies do that, but there is a tendency after a while to sit back on your laurels and say, I'm just going to cash in. So under that one, just say, due to lack of competition, monopolies don't spend much on R&D. So due to the lack of competition, monopolies don't tend to spend much on R&D. So you make that big breakthrough, and then you milk it for the next 20 years. You've got your patent, so now you just kind of sit on it for a while. So that's then a danger. Okay, well, that's a good place to stop. There is one question on the quiz that goes live tonight that we didn't quite get to, so make sure you read ahead a little bit in the chapter on the alternatives of how to deal with monopoly. So you've got 4 problems here. So what do we do? There's 4 different alternatives that we can do if we think there's a real problem. So kind of read ahead a little bit in that. There's one question over that, and then you'll have that answer pretty quick. All right, so I hope you all have a great spring break starting next week, and we'll go through the tests on Monday. Don't forget about the quiz due by 5 o'clock on Friday, and I will see you then. Oh, no, we'll go over the test on Monday. Yeah. All right, see you all next time.